Okay, thank you, Heidi, for this introduction. I will say something about Alternet. People might have heard about it before. This European Biodiversity Research Network. It's at the moment a unique partnership of 27 European organizations, at the moment from 18 different European countries. It all started in 2004 with its first period, 2004-2009, when it was started as an EU network of excellence under the 6th framework program. It was all about integration of institutes, researchers, trying to set up a long-term ecological research network, integration of communication, outreach, and the science policy interface. Then after the framework program, the Network of Excellence finances was finished, we continued 2009 to 2014 in Alternet phase 2, without EU financial support, but with voluntary cash and in-kind contribution by its partner members. And the activities we continued with was actually building upon the original project. And now we're facing Alternet phase 3 after April 2014, and we will continue with the Memorandum of Understanding. What we do, we develop and promote research, we do collaborative and interdisciplinary research, we have the multi-site experiments, transdisciplinary approach with involving stakeholders and dialogue processes. We have the science policy interface, a very strong component of training with our summer school, and also pretty successful in project consortia, building project consortia. So when it comes to the benefits of the NOC for Alternet, then you can think about the efficiency in developing new research themes, topics and methods, which is actually the exchange component, which is of benefit for Alternet. Then finding each other, finding the well-known partners in scientific research and policy support tendering. And then the diversity component, which is the exchange of perspectives from different R&D cultures. These are the benefits from the NOC for Alternet. Then how can Alternet contribute to the establishment of a possible NOC? We can contribute with input of our experience with cash and in-kind contribution system and the Memorandum of Understanding system. We can input with the experience in developing, managing, and executing research programs and projects. We can give input with the experience we have in science policy interface and in the experience we have in organizing science policy events. Contributions of Alternet to NOC in the later stage, after establishment, is the direct contact with research teams, the who is who's and who's doing what. And we can help to channel questions to and from researchers and experts on a wide area of biogeographical regions and topics. We can also bring in, very important, the LTR, LTSER knowledge and infrastructure. So in addition, final word, Alternet has the ability to identify strong points of the partners to maximize synergy and minimize competition, waste resource, and all in short, Alternet is robust, reliable, long-term commitment. There is a brochure that Ben took with, and if you're interested, please say so. Thank you very much. Oh, I have one more thing. New partners are welcome. Our latest new partner is ESSRG from Hungarian. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so next we have Marbeth. Represented by Isabel? No.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, there you are.
No? Okay.
I was wondering where you had disappeared.
Okay, so I'll try to really speed up this presentation. So by saying that Marbeth Plus is in a way the sister network of Alternet, but for the marine environment. And we also the result of a network of excellence that we thought was very successful, so we decided to continue and create this association, and that we call MARBEF Plus. And I put here Euromarine because we are in the process of maybe trying to even build a bigger network with bringing together 3 marine networks, but this is still not there. So what I'm presenting here is what is there, and it's MARBEF Plus. So we have, I think, a good geographically spread. We are a network of different kind of institutions, different sizes. We focus on marine biodiversity and marine research, but we have very good connections with other networks like EPBRS and LifeWatch and GeoBond. We are first chairing the marine group in GeoBond, so connections with groups that don't deal only with marine biodiversity, and also at the international level, and also on for policy like in OSPAR, ICES, and so on. And we, of course, are strongly connected with a lot of research projects that are prepared by the MARBEF community. And also in education, we have a PhD program, master program, and so on. So, what are the potential benefits we see from this NOC to MARBEF? Is better opportunity to work with other actors and other networks and other fields. More visibility towards some policymakers and other users that are not from the marine environment, because I think we are quite well known for those from the marine environment. And also opportunities to participate in policy relevant and high impact projects that go over the marine environment, that don't include just the marine environment. So the best contributions we can give to this NOC is really bringing the marine community, which is not so obvious as some people could think. And then with that provide expertise, contacts with different knowledge holders, links to relevant stakeholders, and so on. Also expertise on raising awareness of the marine issues, that is also not so easy sometimes. And then, of course, support the establishment of the NOC in kind or even in other ways. And then for the long term, of course, I think this will be our main contributions, also helping to formulate questions, because we think that horizon scanning be a very important function also of the NOC. And also the links that we have with a lot of international networks and groups. So additional points, we think this NOC is a very important development for MARBEF. We think that this should provide, of course, the research policy relevant products, but also we should also provide research policy advice and elements of capacity building that we also will discuss here, and that the horizon scanning and awareness raising function is very important for the NOC.
Thank you very much. This is working excellently. I'm very impressed. So next, still same main line of argument, Michael Mörtel, representing the research sites associated to Alternet or product of Alternet.
Okay, thanks Heidi. I tried to stick to the 5 slides. The first one, just briefly what LTI Europe is about. So it's a Europe-scale network covering the major environmental gradients. And the key questions, what is driving our major ecosystems, and how do these changes affect ecosystem functions, biodiversity, structure, and ecosystem services. The key questions, how can we sustainably secure these services, and mitigation and adaptation options. So the key components of the network, starting with the physical component, it's a network of about 250 research sites, 32 research platforms, sociological research platforms. I'm coming back to that in my second slide. A network of data and metadata, of course. We have these 250 sites in 21 countries, it's a part of this landscape of networks in Europe. And we have, well, that's a mistake here, we have 21 countries, about 1,000 scientists in the database. And of course, there are a lot of disciplines involved in the network, not only natural sciences, but also social sciences and others. And we have these site-based research teams. I think this is one of the key assets of the networks, that we have interdisciplinary research teams working at concrete locations in the long term. So there is a lot of these expertise, I think, we have been talking about in the NOC during the last 2 days. We call it a knowledge factory, fancy term. And of course, it's a structuring process in the terms of organizing this field, this realm of research at the European scale. Benefits of LTR from a NOC, potential benefits. I think NOC could be a very efficient mechanism of transporting questions into the network, harvesting the information, the responses back, and also acting as a voting mechanism. I'm not talking mainly about money maybe, but rather visibility. And I think the NOC should take care that those contributing to the NOC and the answers provided by NOC should be visible in the process. What we expect is a strengthening in methodological contributions to the LTSCR. So LTSCR was that we have hotspot regions across Europe, 32 of them, where we have not only natural scientific research, but we try to cover the entire science policy cycle. So producing results, transforming them into relevant information for the management, having established links with the policy and decision making at the local, at the regional scale, and also monitoring the effects of that hopefully different kind of decision making. Communication of striking and policy relevant results, that's also related to this factor of visibility. Identification of gaps. So what we expect from NOC is that from the communication facilitated by NOC, we would know what are the gaps in research, in monitoring, maybe also in data quality and access to data. There is a close cooperation of LTI Europe with LifeWatch, which will be presented later on. And derived from that, maybe not as a direct input, the identification of infrastructural requirements for a European scale infrastructure. And NOC is an integrating mechanism. That's what I really liked during the past 2 days, that people meet, people talk, continue talking, even though some of the discussions might seem to be repetitive. I think we are still making progress slowly from alternate through NOC, etc. And we have to really appreciate that there is a platform for this kind of contribution or communication. Potential contributions of LTI Europe. So I think we can actively contribute in detailing, building and promoting the NOC in terms of the best option. This is linked with the second point here. I think we have nice experiences at the global scale through the global LTI network, at the continental scale, nationally, but mainly regionally and locally. So we can give contributions in terms of what's feasible, what's our experience over the past 20 years. From many sites, some of them are run already 100 years. Use of LTI Europe communication structures, of course we're willing and open to use the expert panel on communication, etc., to convey NOC concepts and NOC messages. Last slide, potential contributions of LTI Europe in the midterm. I think we should contribute to a joint communication strategy in terms of a good division of tasks across these networks. We could also think of making NOC a formal part of our communication structures. Structured access to national, regional and local biodiversity knowledge. We understood that one of the key challenges of IPBES is that I think we would not have that consistent messages scientifically as in the IPCC. So we have a lot of regional and local variability here, and that could be one of the key contributions through that skilled teams working at the regional and the local scale. Testing of new methods at the LTSCR platforms, and of course the filling of knowledge gaps. I think that we are totally willing to modify our science strategy according to the needs identified in the NOC discussion. And the last slide is just good luck. I appreciate the efforts of NOC and I'm looking forward to NOC future. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Anke Hoffmann representing UBonn.
Good morning. EU Bonn is building the European Biodiversity Observation Network, and it is an EU project which started in December last year and is coordinated by the Museum für Naturkunde in Berlin and will last for 4.5 years. 30 partners are involved, 15 from 15 European countries, also from Israel, from the Philippines and Brazil. The key feature of EU Bonn is to deliver integrated and relevant data from on-ground observation and remote sensing to various stakeholders and end users ranging from local to global levels. And the main aim of EU Bonn is to deliver a European contribution to the information infrastructure of GeoBonn, and also in the light of IPBES. But EU Bonn builds also on existing infrastructures such as GBIF, LifeWatch, and other biodiversity centers. The big challenge is, of course, integration of biodiversity information in the areas of freshwater, marine, terrestrial, and remote sensing. And of course, in the project, there are further challenges, tasks, for instance, to harmonize data standards and improve the data interoperability, also to develop and improve tools for assessing and analyzing biodiversity information, design monitoring schemes, also testing the concepts in the EU Bonn testing sites, and advance the science policy dialogue. Yeah, the benefits of the network of knowledge for EU Bonn. EU Bonn could draw on the NOC community and the network of the science policy interface. NOC is also seen as a useful mechanism for the development of the EU Bonn portal, where EU Bonn could draw on already collected data and research findings. And a major benefit would be if the requesters to the NOC could be linked to the EU Bonn to obtain relevant integrated biodiversity data and the products. That would also enlarge the user community of EU Bonn. The other way around, the contributions of EU Bonn to NOC, we could provide contacts and potential users to NOC, and also expertise from the EU Bonn network we could offer, for instance, professional expertise in disciplines such as taxonomy and ecology, also thematic expertise regarding tools, modeling, monitoring scenarios, and so on. And we could also support the outreach of the NOC products via the dissemination channels of EU Bonn. And in the midterm perspective, we could provide expertise on biodiversity data management, or also tools for data analysis and visualization tools for stakeholders. And we could contribute the harmonization and integration of data, common standards, and high quality data. And main contribution also to NOC are then the strategies for future European integration biodiversity information infrastructures management. And an additional point is that we highly would recommend that EU Bonn and NOC closely collaborate in future on a European contribution for IPBES. And just a small comment on the white paper given by one partner of EU Bonn. We could provide a description on the needs of data standards to the white paper if this is needed and wished. And there was also a question, what is the status of NOC regarding data sharing? Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have a whole bunch of flowers unfolding here. Next is EPBRS, that has been mentioned several times, but now for a brief overview from Jürgen Tack.
Okay, thank you. For those not knowing, the European Platform for Biodiversity Research Strategy, and we have detected some in the last days. The EPBRS is a forum at which as well natural as social scientists, but also policymakers and other stakeholders identify, structure and focus the strategically important research that is essential to a number of elements, including the use of components of biodiversity in a sustainable way, maintain ecosystem functions that provide goods and services, conserve, protect and restore the natural world, and halt biodiversity loss. EPBRS was, I have to say, founded in 1999, so it's already 14 years acting and running. And that makes that we have a very good basis and we have a very good link with as well the science policy as the environmental policy, and as a member of a number of policy organs also within the European Commission, we have a good entry in that direction. Where do we see the potential benefits of a network of knowledge for EPBRS? Well, first of all, it's joining existing networks. It's linking a policy-oriented structure with science-oriented structures. And there is a need for a financial sound and durable solution for multiple networks. And we have seen that as well networks of excellence, as LifeWatch, as other networks are systematically struggling to survive. Some of us are doing that with the European budget. Others are doing that, as we have seen with the networks of excellence, with cash and in-kind contributions of the research organizations themselves. But each and every of those organizations is having a need for a sound and durable solution for the future. Where do we see the strongest potential contributions to a network of knowledge? EPBRS is offering an existing structure. We have a very strong science policy interface built up during the past 14 years. We have a strong make, which is known, except to some of us, but it's very well known within as well the science as the policy world. And we have a very strong representation in EC policy mechanisms, including the CGBN meeting, including a number of other advisory organs of the European Commission. Strongest potential contributions of EPBRS to a network of knowledge is linking policy advice with science strategy. That's always been the strong point of EPBRS, so that is something we can offer to this community, and giving orientation to biodiversity research funding in function of policy questions, because policy questions is one thing, answering them is another one, but we do systematically find gaps in research, and if they are important for policy, this mechanism is an ideal way to detect and to act on it. Yesterday, we have presented in one of the breakout groups, let's say, an initial idea, which is still in a draft version, but which has been discussed between EPBRS, the networks of excellence, LifeWatch, Spiral, and the biodiversity knowledge group, in which we have tried to set up a structure in which we can link each of those networks, research networks, into a common framework which could assist policymakers in answering questions. I'm not going to go deeper into this one, but I would say we have another meeting, telephone conference, discussing on the documents we have prepared. The idea is that those documents will be released very soon, as broad as possible, because in the end, let's say the idea we have is to include as much research networks as possible, working together in a common framework, where we can link science and research and environmental policy advice together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jürgen. And definitely we should discuss the different options of membership based or not, and carefully communicate there. Next, we would have had EEA, but unfortunately Yvonne Perea had to cancel because she fell ill. However, the EEA, just to make this also clear, has been involved from the outset. They have a member in the project advisory group, which is called Client Dialogue Group, and they have been in close contact, and the focus on BISE is one clear point that becomes visible, but the interaction has been much broader. The other well-established partner and part of the Commission is the Joint Research Center, which will now be presented by Ole Ostermann.
Thank you, Heidi. Yes, good morning again. The Joint Research Center is the European Commission's in-house science body, which means that there is a process for which the Commission's internal services provide some scientifically sound input into the policy-making process. And I work in the Environment Institute, which is one of the 7 institutes of the Joint Research Center, and it is of course linked to the general mission statement of the European Commission, of the Joint Research Center, excuse me, to provide the scientific and technical support to the EU policies. The GRC provides the scientific basis for the conception, the development, the implementation, and the evaluation of the EU policies, which means we cover the whole policy cycle. And of course, we work together with the stakeholder DGs, and some of them are represented here in the room. Potential benefits of a NOC is, of course, for us, we would see ourselves somewhere in observer position in that, is to access to first-hand information and also to be involved from the beginning into upcoming issues of whatever kind. If you are part of a larger network, of course, the buzz is going, and it was mentioned in the white paper, stay tuned is the key word for this. So benefit for us, yes, being informed. Our input to establish it is, of course, limited, but we can offer, as we can offer to many institutions or bodies, our open access to our databases, to our knowledge, and to connect to our internal networks. And we can contribute to peer review of outputs of the NOC, or as it is said in the white paper, the evaluation process. Once the NOC would be established, we can continue sharing this open source data, information and knowledge, and also contribute in our position as being part of the European Commission to provide a view on the EU policies. And finally, an additional point, suggestion or remark when reading the papers, but the point has been raised several times already. Avoiding overlap seems important, so the NOC has to be clearly shaped, define the boundaries, seek for the complementarities with the other science policy institutions that are around. And I would like to make a last remark, which is a little bit on the margin, but I would like to attract your view on an article which I've also posted on the BiodiversityKnowledge forum, which is named "The Battle is in Your Head." I have a copy on my table as well, which is actually setting out how far, despite the knowledge that we have already, the behavior is hindered by barriers which are in our mind. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. First, I want to try to, of course, keep time, but I want to thank the organizers for actually inviting this sort of an early career or younger perspective to how a science policy network could be implemented, because I think it's a rare thing, and I think that needs to be commended. So I'll try to provide a more fresh perspective, play that role. But first of all, the International Network of Next Generation Ecologists, or INGE, it's a global early career network of ecologists established 3-4 years ago. It's supported through a collaboration with the International Association for Ecology, and currently has 16 institutional members. Most of them are learned societies in ecology. They're spread over 5 continents. And through that, basically, INGE is a gateway, you can say, to on the magnitude of several thousand early career ecologists. I'll come back to that. But basically what we do is that we try to aggregate or pool all early career resources within the ecological discipline between countries to basically make the most of the aggregate resource. Our work focuses on creating sort of at a basic level early career opportunities within ecology, whether it's access to funding, access to jobs, or just sharing experiences, training. Other topics we work on is sort of trying to implement more open approaches within the ecological science, whether that's in review, in sort of reviewing, in publishing, in the way we share data. And the last and probably most important focus of us is sort of trying to make ecology play a bigger role in interdisciplinary issues such as biodiversity research. I think so there's one very specific benefit that INGE sees in BiodiversityKnowledge, or NOC, and that would be a gateway to the science policy interface. It's sort of still a very, actually for early career scientists, a hard to access topic, and I think a sort of network of knowledge could be, that is really what we see in there. It's a way to build capacity within the early career community for future generations so that biodiversity knowledge, or the network of knowledge, can continue to exist. Project opportunities for early career scientists. So in the short-term perspective, I think INGE, at the most important thing we're contributing is the early career workforce. And I don't think that should be sort of neglected, and I think some of the case studies during this conference shows that that's really important. Workforce. We also bring the early career or next generation perspective, whether it's in the use of new communication tools, in implementing open approaches in science, or sort of just keeping the future generations in mind in projects like this. And we have experience in implementing online community platforms. In the longer term perspective, I think it's sort of capacity building, as I already pointed to. We can link to the early career scientists. We can pull in this resource for the science policy work that needs to be done. And solving the lack of time dilemma, as was discussed on the first day of the conference and came out of the sort of example case studies. And I think so we should definitely, I would encourage that we keep in mind the sort of mentoring approach within a science policy interface. And finally, I want to just end off with the sort of the next generation perspective. I think we should try to build a NOC that will be there for the next generations. And by that, I don't mean myself, but sort of, I don't know if you can see it, but that's a young ecologist up there. So let's keep that in mind. Since I have more space on this slide, I want to sort of do a big promotion of a seminar series, the online seminar series that we're launching in the fall on ecology and economics in collaboration with the Institute for New Economic Thinking. And I think that will be very relevant for many people here. And for all the early career people in the room, and for everybody else, if you want to know more, please come to our website and read more about INGI. Thank you.
So, it's very nice to see things into the future, not only the many years that we've already been trying to do things. Next, we have Xavier Leroux, who I'm sure many of you have met and interacted with over the past 2 days. He had to leave yesterday, but Carsten will speak on his behalf.
Yeah, I will just very shortly convey a message. We discussed a lot with Xavier, who's leading Biodiversa. Biodiversa is an ERA-net funded by the European Commission, which actually brings together national funding institutions on biodiversity issues. They are launching regular calls jointly with their money from their member countries. Some of you might be, even involved in projects that they have been doing. And I just wanted to, just have been asked by Xavier to convey, I think, basically 2 messages in order of linking up with the network of knowledge in terms of, from the perspective of Biodiversa. So the first one is, as I said, they have regular calls. And of course, they are funding regularly quite a lot of projects. The recent call, which has just been closed, was one on invasive species. And so, of course, the projects and the outcomes of the projects are, of course, an important source as well of potential information and potential knowledge and expertise that can go into the work of the network of knowledge. This is, of course, first important message. And the second one is that they intend to continue with these regular calls. And, of course, it's always important also for them to get a feedback from the community, from policy as well, of what are actually the research needs, which kind of topics could be funded, and of course a network of knowledge together with the research strategy function that we have been discussing as well is of course a source of, I would say inspiration also for the funding agencies to think about new topics. And these are the 2 main topics I would like to convey to you on the Biodiversa, from the Biodiversa perspective. I hope I got it right. And with that, I would leave it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So next we have Jonathan Porter representing IALE Europe.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm here to speak about IALE Europe, which is the European chapter for the International Association for Landscape Ecology. The definition for landscape ecology is shown on the screen here. This is one of the definitions. This is from IALE UK. I won't bother to read it, but you can see that it combines an understanding of the natural and the cultural components of landscape. It's inherently a transdisciplinary subject, and it brings together people from lots of different backgrounds. IALE Europe is the European level chapter for IALE, but there are also there's 11 national chapters across Europe. Many of these are long established, and these all work at a national level. IALE Europe works at the European level and also represents those countries that don't currently have their own chapter. The most recent chapter that has been created this year is IALE Romania, which has just been formed earlier this year, which is great news. There's also, of course, an international dimension as well. There's an international level to the organisation, and there are also chapters in every continent around the world, apart from Antarctica. So where do we see the potential benefits of the network of knowledge for IALE? Firstly, it's obviously the networking function and the opportunity to link up with other disciplines in generally transdisciplinary research. Of course, in increasing the impact of landscape ecology across Europe. And, as we heard in the last one presentation, a real hope that this will be a long-term platform that will be stable and funded for a long time to come to allow it to really have a true impact. In terms of what IALE can bring in the short term, in the establishment of the network, as I mentioned already, IALE is inherently multidisciplinary, and all of the members of IALE come from a wide range of different backgrounds, including social science, land use planning, archaeology, all sorts of different disciplines. And as we heard yesterday, there's a real need to bring in these different disciplines into the network. So I think IALE is a ready-made source of these people. Of course, there's these national and international links as well, which, as we've already heard previously in the conference, is so important for the network. And of course, we can help to promote biodiversity knowledge through networks, through our newsletters, on our website, and so on. In the longer term, after the establishment of the network, the main contribution will be through experts from a wide range of different backgrounds and people who are doing genuinely transdisciplinary research, so research that joins up different disciplines and has an impact beyond the science into having a real influence on policy and practice. And importantly, people who understand the links between the natural, the cultural and the perceptual aspects of landscape. So not just thinking about the biodiversity, but thinking about it in its broader context. As a final point, I think it's just worth reflecting on the definition of landscape from the European Landscape Convention, which has provided a real catalyst for landscape research and action and policy across Europe, which really highlights that landscape combines the natural and the cultural components of the landscape, but also the perceptual components of landscape. And it really is bringing together these different views of place that helps landscape ecology to be really impactful. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. I'm really impressed by the diversity of actors that have come to join us here. Next we have Yves de Jong from PESEI.
From PESEI?
PESEI, okay.
PESEI is the Pan-European Species Directory infrastructure. So it's a taxonomic backbone for Europe. With link to other species information. Like some of the other projects, PESEI is a spin-off of the networks of excellence, and PESEI is also about integration. So building the taxonomic backbone. It's the integration of the specialist network. It's building the gateway to do the integration of the register services, the common policy on the standards, and the development of the governance models. I made some pictures. How it looks like. So this is the PESEI. The project, it's built into the components of the specialist part. So it's a network of the people, and it's the tools and which we need for the technical integration and other kinds of integration of the data. Within this context, I would like to focus on the people. So it's that part. For the local knowledge, PESEI does have a network of focal points in most of the countries in Europe, and we have two ways how we build the taxonomic backbone. So one part is linked to the Pan-European checklist, and the other part is linked to the local networks. Within this way. So we do have two kinds of network. So it's the specialist who build the backbone, and it's the local knowledge which we get from the focal points, which provide common names and some other stuff. Within the network of excellence, we tried to build one, what you may call a Pan-European workforce. And so we did integrate the specialist information of the checklist and the focal point into the database which we built within the network of excellence. But so this was more or less our advice. But it's at a certain moment, we stopped it, and I'm very happy to be here because we could use this contact to see how we can make it working again. The questions, the benefits. For us it will give a more close contact to to the users of the data. So yes, there are many users of the data, but I think we can better serve our end users than we are doing at the moment. Yes, of course. The integration of the PACE people, so the specialists and the experts into the NOC, and I think it will also be a benefit. When we speak with one voice to the EU when it deals with issues linked to biodiversity management. The contributions from PACE. Yes, PACE provide a taxonomic standard. That's an important thing because all biodiversity data is linked to names. So to be sure that you can do the integration of data and that you speak with the common the language. Yes, we need this taxonomic standards, which is also part of the reason why PACE is one of the building blocks of of LifeWatch and EUBON. PACE is a knowledge hub. With respect to the taxonomic expertise. PACE is part of some of the biodiversity informatic projects, building the new tools, the virtual tools, which could be a benefit. And we have a strong outreach to the institutes within Europe. On the longer term, it's more or less the same. So I try to see how we can model, how we can contribute to the development of those NOCs and to see to what extent the PACE networks can be included. I see a strong benefit also for the virtual labs. So because it will provide this space where the specialist can work on doing the science and the backbone for linking and sharing the biodiversity data. So that's it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
There is a trial, so we'd like to have some more information.
Wonderful. And we'll also have the chance to discuss some of these issues further in the round following this. Next, I'd like to invite Christoph Heuser, well known to most of you from the wonderful dinner we had the first night at the Natural History Museum, to present GBIF, please. Christoph.
Yeah, thanks Heidi, and late very good morning to you all. I'm stepping in for Donald Hoburn and colleagues from GBIF. GBIF is preparing for its annual governing board meeting, which starts a week from now. Actually, it will take place here in Berlin, so everybody in Copenhagen is terribly busy now, and Donald sends his apologies. He would have liked to have been here. Very briefly, GBIF is now more than 12 years old. As you know, it's essentially an information infrastructure. It was established based on a recommendation from the OECD Global Science Forum, and it's formalized on an agreement, an open agreement, voluntary agreement between countries and international organizations. On the left side, you see the countries which currently do support the organization and the infrastructure, also financially. The essential product of GBIF, of course, it's its data portal or its data sharing mechanism. And on the right side, you see the growth of data shared via its portal. So today it can offer access, free access to more than 400 million individual data records from all around the world. So the data portal covers really all countries, I think even including the Vatican by now. So to the three questions. First, what would be the benefit from NOC, or what's the expectation from GBIF? GBIF is always in need of interfaces to interpret and use their data. Again, it's about raw data. So interpretation is up to others. And of course, GBIF has been and will continue to be under constant pressures about priorities, which are the most important data to be mobilized, to be shared. And again, guidance, what is needed right now is always welcome or needed by GBIF. So which types of data are most important and in which form they should be presented perhaps also. Second question, what can GBIF bring to bear? It's of course a global organization and a global network. On the European scale, it's pretty strong. If you also look at the map, most of the EU members are members of GBIF. And so it has a very strong European network with currently 21 national level nodes and some 120 institutes behind these national nodes. So in Germany alone, it's more than a dozen large-scale institutions that contribute to sharing data via GBIF. Of course, it has its data portal, and which will continue to grow with the 400 million data sets, and a big chunk of those actually come from or are for Europe. And of course, it can also offer its expertise in specifically IT development, tools, web services, and related activities in publishing and accessing biodiversity data. Midterm perspective, again, focused, prioritized mobilization of data, and then the integration of GBIF data, which would interface if or when NOC is going to build its portal, would be. Some final points. GBIF, again, is based on principles of open access and free sharing of data, so we'd be mostly interested to learn more if and to what degree the NOC wants to take a stand there. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. So we're collecting all the necessary ingredients from data to methods to workforce and enthusiasm. Next, we have the European Ecological Federation. A presentation. They sent us a presentation, and we're unfortunately not able to come personally, but again, Carsten will fill in and... LifeWatch is not quite... LifeWatch will be the next and final presentation. And then we'll have a chance afterwards to discuss with all the presenters of this presentation. I know it's kind of a bombardment to get one after the next here. We don't have it there? Okay, so then we start with the LifeWatch, please. So we'll have Anna Maria Vremp.
Hi, good morning everyone. So I'm from the Swedish Species Information Center, where I mostly work with the Swedish LifeWatch initiative. So this presentation was prepared by Alberto Bassett, who works for the Italian LifeWatch Service Center, but he had to leave early, so I'm presenting LifeWatch in his place. So what's LifeWatch? LifeWatch is a research infrastructure that aims to deepen the understanding on biodiversity and ecosystem services in Europe. It aims to serve a science community in conducting first-class biodiversity research in order to provide for answers to political problems and questions concerning biodiversity in its broader sense. So what LifeWatch will offer is integrated access to data. It's resources down at the bottom of the figure there. Access to data, and on top of that, analytical and modeling tools that will together consist a virtual laboratory for researchers. And these modeling tools and data is served by a variety of collaborating initiatives. Like, for instance, GBIF will be one important data provider to LifeWatch. Let me say also that LifeWatch is at the moment somewhere in between its preparatory phase and its construction phase. It's been delayed a little bit, but what's happening now is that LifeWatch has applied to the European Union to form so-called ERIC, which is European Research Infrastructure Consortium, which will be paid by the member countries in this ERIC. So that's a way to guarantee long-term funding of the LifeWatch project, so that it will not just cease and end by some other European projects, they will end when the European funding stops. But through this ERIC, LifeWatch will achieve hopefully long-term funding and be able to be a long-term project. So what are the potential benefits of a network of knowledge for LifeWatch? Well, a better organized community of biodiversity scientists, simpler and more effective access to decision-making needs that require e-services or might require e-services to be most efficiently addressed. So what LifeWatch can offer are the virtual laboratories and the e-services to answer questions, but we need someone to raise those questions as well. So I think we can have a great cooperation here between the network of knowledge and the LifeWatch community. Contributions from LifeWatch to the network of knowledge. A properly structured model of user interface, high-performance e-service environments, and ontologies and standards for integration of data. The preparatory phase of LifeWatch resulted in very detailed construction plans and technical guidelines for instance, data accessibility and constructing web service and all that to interconnect data and e-services. In the long-term perspective, LifeWatch can contribute with an e-science research platform that would enable pushing frontiers in biodiversity science, virtual workflows and services that hopefully can answer specific policy needs and improve the decision-making this way. And also e-learning services targeting different stakeholder communities and supporting capacity building. So, to conclude, what LifeWatch can offer is the possibility to maybe perform new studies, studies that haven't been previously possible to do because there's been lack of data or there's been lack of capacity to analyze these huge amounts of data. So, from my impression, these 2 or 3 days during this conference, we've talked a lot about how this network of knowledge can gather existing knowledge, but through services like LifeWatch, we'll also be able to quite rapidly set up new studies, conduct new studies that will bring out also new knowledge based on a very good accessibility to data and these virtual laboratories that will make it possible to answer questions that previously took maybe 5 or 10 years to answer, but now is possible to address in a much faster way with these virtual workflows and analytical tools. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So now, second try for the European Ecological Federation. And after this, we'll have a round with all the speed presenters up here. And I'd like to encourage you to think about questions, points you would like to raise. I'm not quite sure, but I think most of us don't know all of these initiatives. So please feel free to ask any sort of questions. There we go.
Okay, thank you very much again. Again, I'm speaking on behalf of another player who's unfortunately not be able to be around, the European Ecological Federation, which brings together the European ecological societies on the country level. It's there. It's an umbrella organization, if you like, as these based on these national societies. They provide a forum for effective communication through the community, of ecological scientists in Europe. And as you may know, for example, they're organizing regular European conferences, changing with the INTECOL, the International Ecological Conference as well, which just has been held in London a few weeks ago. They're disseminating these ecological knowledge through meetings, publications, acting also at advisory and consultative capacity in relation to European institutions. They're promoting, of course, the collaborative activities in ecological research and cooperating, of course, also on the international level. And to give you an overview, these are, I think, the 16 countries which are currently members of the EEF. All of them are sitting together in a joint board. This is currently led by Stefan Klotz from our institute, the Helmholtz Center for Environmental Research. And as we heard, for example, they are of course linked to other organizations we have been mentioning today, to INGI, for example. Of course, they're supporting it very much. So it's also very important as a learned society on the European level to link up with. What they said the potential benefits could be from EEF coming from a NOC, the faster dissemination of new scientific results from the members into the sphere of practitioners and politics, the feedback from the practitioners and the policy sphere to scientific organizations, of course the other way around as well, and also faster supporting international processes. The potential support and contributions in the steps of establishing a NOC could be the contribution of information on European and national networks and databases on ecological and biodiversity research. Of course, the national hubs they have, the national societies are very good overview about the national spheres and the national activities. They can develop a cooperation between the different national societies and European level organizations. And of course, they can support also the stronger involvement of these learned societies into the science policy interface. In the midterm perspective, they are interested in issues of horizon scanning of different scientific subjects, focusing on the European scale, the dissemination of ecological knowledge through meetings, publications, and other means, for example, using the Congress that I talked about, acting in advisory, consultative, and representative boards and councils, so getting involved in the NOC also on that more administrative side, I would say. And finally, the additional points. It's important to say that combining information on national and European activities from ecological and biodiversity research is crucial. Coordination of conferences and meetings and support of meetings also of the NOC could be a point, and the contacts between the scientific communities via the learned societies as the EEF and the science policy community acting at the interface should be further developed. And this is really the focus that also the NOC can support. So this is the statement of the EEF. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Carsten.